G'day and welcome to The Offload. I'm James Willis. Great to have your company alongside the Australians, Andrew Webster. G'day, Webby.
G'day, James. Great to be back.
Great to see you, my friend. By the way, we can, for anyone that wants to follow our podcast, you can go to YouTube and Instagram and just search for the Continuous Call Team and all your podcast feeds as well. Let's start with Zac Lomax again. It is still dominating the rugby league headlines. There's talk of Rugby Australia now. What do we know at this stage, mate?
Well, I think Zac Lomax is looking for a lifeline wherever he can latch onto one. Are you referring to Zac Lomax, the Nelson Mandela of rugby league? Because the way that some of the both the RLPA and the Melbourne Storm have been talking, it's almost like he's this outcast, this guy in exile who needs to be saved. Let's just repeat it one more time for the fans in the cheap seats. He did this to himself.
Yep.
Don't worry about who's advised him. He did this to himself. Rugby is a legitimate chance for Zac Lomax, James. If I'm Joe Schmidt and Phil Waugh, I wouldn't be particularly happy with him walking into Rugby Australia headquarters at Moore Park there in a boardies t-shirt and a pair of I think they were sort of like canvas slip-ons. So it's good to see he got dressed up for the occasion. Look, at the way my rugby union types, and that's what rugby union people are, they're types, explained it to me, is they're not going to throw the bank at him. The offer is pretty much what it was late last year when he went around all the Super Rugby franchises and to inspect their facilities to work out whether that's where his future lay. It'll be around 400,000. I don't think the Rugby Australia top-up would be too much, if anything at all. Again, the way it was described to me, come and prove yourself in this game that you've only played fleetingly when you were 12 years old, and show us that you're fair income. As I said to my rugby union friends yesterday, well, be prepared for him to walk out after 9 months, because that seems to be how long his attention span is with a football club or a code at the moment. I do think they're keen for him to come, but it'll be basically prove yourself in the first year, and the money will follow from there. There's a World Cup in next year in Australia, of course. I see his management are talking about possible contracts in the top 14 French competition, maybe Japan. That's it. I was of the assumption that they tried those avenues after R360 fell over, and that the opportunities weren't there. So whether they're trying to inflate the market or not, that's another question. But rugby's a genuine possibility for Zac Lomax if he can't find a deal in the NRL.
And this is after the deal with the Melbourne Storm fell over. And I know Craig Bellamy has said today he's worried about Zac Lomax being lost to the game. I know that Peter V'landys, the ARL Commission chairman, has defended him in recent days, saying that he made a silly mistake. But, I mean, you read the comments on all the stories that your paper and other papers are publishing, and I think fans have said this is so stupid. It's black and white. He had a contract. He left it. He shouldn't be allowed to just come straight back into an NRL side.
It's really weird. So Peter V'landys has been very good since he became chairman in 2019 in sniffing the breeze and knowing what fans want. You know, he sees things through a populist lens. That's how he has ruled. And he's there for the fans. But there's been two big things that have happened in the off season that I think have been real blind spots for PVL. One's the kickoff change that end up being aborted at the last minute,
Yep.
To be honest, because Nick Politis stepped in. And the second one is Zac Lomax. And, you know, I'd expect Craig to say that. There seems to be all this concern about, oh, my God, rugby league's going to lose Zac Lomax. Well, I can tell you it's lost far better players, more accomplished players than Zac Lomax in the last couple of years. Obviously, Joey Manu and Joseph Swali'i. And it's all right. The NRL went okay last year, I thought, like record ratings, record attendances, record revenue. Rugby league will survive without Zac Lomax. I find it almost disingenuous the way that the RLPA have stepped in the last 24 hours and gone out swinging, not just for him, but also Ryan Matterson, about the way that Parramatta were trying to do a deal with Melbourne to facilitate Zac Lomax going there. And I think they described players, they didn't say specifically who, but they said players are not bargaining chips. You know what? Welcome to the real world of professional sport. They are pieces of meat. They are bargaining chips. And I don't think the NRL contracting system is the way it is, mostly because of the player union. They don't want to draft. They don't want transfer windows. They want this stupid situation where players can sign a year out from the end of their contract to give them enough time to, one, get the best deal that they can, fair enough, but also so they can move house and relocate, all that type of gibber. At what point does what's best for the game and what's probably best for the clubs ever come into account? So when Ryan Pappenhausen left Melbourne last year with 1 year to go, what is that? Is that okay? That's all right. It's all right. It's all the players' way. Is that all right? It's Zac Lomax. He left Parramatta with 3 years to go, 3.5 years to go on his contract. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Can't be all one way, RLPA.
Well, that's it. And also, I still think it's a terrible look, Webby, that every season you get players that have signed a year ahead of time and they go, oh, they're still committed. They're going to play one more year for this club and move. And it's always been on this argument that players need time to re-establish, to find a home. I mean, it just doesn't wash. And as you say, in other sports, including in American sports, you can get traded on the same day. You get moved on, you get cut. So the advantage is so heavily weighted towards the players. And in this case, I just think it's crazy the NRL just hasn't put its foot down and said, no, sorry, that's it. There was a contract in place. Parramatta have lost a star player. Parramatta's fans have been dudded by all of this as well. And for the kids that bought Zac Lomax jerseys that aren't going to see him play for the next 3.5 years, I don't understand why there's any sort of... The door should be slammed shut, in my view, for 2 years, on principle, to stop the next player from doing it.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think it will be. I mean, the other one, a great example is Lachlan Galvin last year at the West Tigers. The players can't have it all their own way, and I think Parramatta. I think I've said on the podcast a couple of times now is in lieu of a draft where there's nothing else to trade, the only way you can do it is with players. That's all you can do. And again, Ryan Matterson, no one held a gun to his head. Ryan Matterson said no and didn't go. So that's just that is the art of negotiation and the contract system as agreed to by the RLPA, because they don't really have a better system in place. So I understand, Clint Newman's a very good man and he has every right to defend the player. But, come on, I don't think they're being ambushed into leaving their club.
No, and given the generous salaries that have been in place, and they didn't really fall off too much during COVID either, I think most people look at the contract values and say, well, if you've signed something, you've got to hold to it. Hey, I'm keen to get your thoughts, and this kind of got a little bit lost on the weekend, but there has been some mixed feedback on the rule changes for this year. The one that keeps popping up, and I heard Cameron McInnes talk about this very negatively yesterday from the Sharks, the interchange bench going from 4 to 6 players. Now, from what I understand, and you might just explain this, but you still use 4, but you have the other 2 in reserve just in case everyone gets injured. But I'm assuming, so what happens to those players? They can't play reserve grade? Just explain how it all works. There has been a fair reaction to it.
Well, that's right. It's again, I think it's the fact that, like all NRL rule changes, they're brought in at the last minute. These ones were put to the clubs. I think the email hit their inboxes, the clubs, on Boxing Day, according to some of them. So it caught them by surprise. Look, it's a Wayne Bennett initiative, along with that change to the kickoff rule that they were talking about, but was aborted at the last minute. I think it's just to cover the interchange stays the same. The amount of interchanges that you can have and the amount you can use 4 players. It's just to cover the fact that if you lose a half or an outside back, you've got that cover on the bench. You can go to those players. You've got those extra options in those positions. I think the main problem for players like Cameron McInnes, and Harry Grant said it a few weeks ago too, is that it is the development of players. Like if you've got players sitting on that bench for week in, week out and not being used, then that's going to stunt their development. Also, there's a bit of a player shortage in this, in this game at the moment. There's so much concern about where both Perth and PNG are going to get their players from in the next few years. It's a game of attrition or nutrition, as Benny Elias famously said many years ago. But it's the game's never been faster. The players have never been fitter. They've never been bigger, and they've never been more injured, and that's just fact. So you can't be delaying the progression of players through those lower grades if you're going to have an extended bench. So Andrew Abdo has countered this, James, by saying that that it's up to coaches to decide, who exactly they have in cover. So whether it's whether it's your second string halfback, whether you do we play him in New South Wales or Queensland Cup, or do we use someone else from another grade on that bench just in cover, just in case a specialist player goes down. That's where it gets. It comes down to coaches managing their squad. So I'm sure if it doesn't work, they'll probably abort it and go back to the old system about round 4.
And they are trying the kickoff rule change in games later this season that don't count. So we'll have to wait and see there. But I think that's a better way of doing it, given I had concerns about it. I thought it was really it could have changed close finishes. So we'll wait and see what happens there. But again, I don't know why. We've just come off a record season on so many fronts. The rules are the fabric of the game. I don't. It feels like they get advice from the coaches. The coaches have self-interest, and then they put it to a wider group of people. They say, "Yeah, let's give it a go." And the six again rule they got really lucky with, but that's been a revelation. I think it's been one of the best things in the game for a long time. There's an argument here to say if it's not broke, don't fix it as well.
But they've had to with I agree the set restarts have been good for the game, but they've had to bring in various rules to combat teams trying to game it really, particularly when they're defending against a team that they've just pinned down on their own line, and that's what's happened with the changes to the penalty from 20 metres onwards. Excuse me. Can I talk you quickly through what happened with the kickoff?
Yes, I want to hear about the Nick Politis factor.
This is rolled gold. Correct. I don't know if that's the right cliche, but we'll go for it. So they had a meeting of 6 coaches: Wayne Bennett, Ivan Cleary, Ricky Stewart, Craig Bellamy, Craig Fitzgibbon, and who am I missing? Michael Maguire. Sorry.
Oh, Match, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, it won the comp. You may have heard of it. They were called to a meeting at League Central. Peter V'landys was there. Andrew Abdo was there. A few other officials were there. And according to a couple of the coaches that I spoke to, they were of the opinion that it didn't matter what they argued, that kickoff change was going to come into effect. Wayne Bennett was the one who suggested let's return to Super League where the team that scores kicks off. He was a little bit blindsided, Wayne, by the fact that Peter V'landys said, well, let's give the team that's receiving the ball the option of whether they want to kick off or receive the ball from the kickoff. So that was a little bit of a twist from the chairman. There was no real vote on it whatsoever. It was just basically agreed that this is what was going to happen. When it got reported that it had been a unanimous decision, Craig Fitzgibbon from the Sharks was far from happy from it. He said he had made it very clear to everybody in that meeting that he did not agree with it, and because for that exactly those words you used, it's against the fabric of the game. At one point, a few weeks down the track, it went to the clubs. The clubs basically argued a little bit about it as they telegraphed in the media a few days beforehand. But again, none of them really argued that hard against it because they thought they'd be wasting their breath. Nick Politis stepped in and called Peter V'landys and said, "Look, I don't think you understand that this isn't going to be the best thing for the game." And put him on the phone to Trent Robertson, who couldn't attend that meeting because he had been walking Kokoda. And hey presto, the rule was overturned. So for now, one, it just shows you the power of Uncle Nick, but also, it's easy to be critical of the NRL over it. But I like the fact that Peter V'landys is a man of reason, and when he, the penny finally drops, he can say, well, you know what, that's not the best thing for the game at the moment. But I don't think it's dead by any means.
No, and as I say, they'll trial it later this year in games that are no longer contributing to the finals. But I think also the NRL would have looked at the feedback, and there was a lot of feedback from punters. We were getting calls on 2GB. There was a lot of emails. All the comments on stories were just saying it's a step too far, and it's those close finishes. But it's interesting to hear you say that there were coaches that voiced their concerns about it, because I think there was a feeling that the big coaches had proposed this. It had been their idea. They were all on board, and then it had gone from there. So the question is, where has this sort of come from? And what was it designed to do? There was one theory that it was to, help with the US audience a little bit with the kickoff changing like the NFL. I'm not sure how serious that is, but I think it was a bigger rule change than a lot of people thought. And that's why Nick Politis would have been making a lot of noise about it.
It was to get rid of the blowout, but if you get rid of but by doing it, you get rid of the comeback.
Yes.
It's either one or the other.
Well, and look at the way that Brisbane came back in all those games last year to win the premiership.
Brisbane don't win that game against Canberra if that rule change is brought into effect. I suppose the bigger picture, James, is the thing that fans say to me, and I say it as a fan myself. Just stop changing everything. It's exhausting. You don't know. I'd hate to be a coach or a recruitment manager because and it was the same with the 6 to go rule when it was brought in, during the COVID shutdown. It's, squads are recruited and picked, and players are let go based on how the trends of the game. And if you're constantly changing it over and over year to year, it must be a nightmare for recruitment manager. Do we need a big body or do we need a more athletic body? Like if the game's going to change so much, it's hard to recruit around. So that's the complaint that I hear from clubs regularly.
I don't think there's been all that many blowouts. I'm happy to stand corrected on that, but I look at the AFL sometimes and I look at other codes and just how one-sided some of the games are. And I think we had a pretty competitive season last year as well. It wasn't like there were teams being flogged every week. So again, there's far more close finishes than there are blowouts. That was good insight, Webby. That's your best yet. We've done 3 of these. That's your best scoop.
That's all right. No worries. And more to come.
Yeah, 100%. Hey, just quickly, so the rest of round 1 gets underway tonight with the Storm taking on the Eels, which will be interesting given everything we've spoken about in regards to Zac Lomax. I know you tipped the Roosters for the premiership. I'm really interested in a couple of sides this year. I think Souths are going to be a really interesting test case. They've had a lot of injuries, but they'll be hoping to get all those star players fit and back on the park all at once.
Souths will finish in the 4.
There you go. That's a huge
I really
turnaround.
like Souths. I do like. Look, I think a lot will depend, obviously, as always, on Latrell and Cody. But if they can stay fit and in the game, then I think Souths can really build on what they've got, what they've done in the preseason, really. And the way that Fafita was storming down that left edge, if anyone can unlock the riddle of David Fafita, it's the super coach. So I really like South. So that said, they can be streaky. So but yeah, there's a lot to look forward to if you're a South supporter.
And are we saying that the Raiders can't do what they did last year, or have you got them in the top 4 as well?
No, I'm not going to say that because nothing hurts more than the wrath of Ricky Stewart.
No, and that's why I pick my words very carefully. They were minor premiers last year. Yeah.
It is. It's interesting though, isn't it? That was it was almost like such a psychological blow losing that game to the Broncos in the way that they did. They were always long odds to win the following week, and they were bundled out. How Ricky gets over that. And he's a master manipulator of young minds, Ricky Stewart. So if he can somehow use that to turn that team around, that's going to be the big question of their season.
Webby, great stuff. We'll catch you next week, mate.
Thanks, James.
That's Andrew Webster from The Australian, and that's all we have time for on The Offload today. We'll catch you next time. Make sure you subscribe to the Continuous Call team through your podcast feed. We're also on YouTube and Instagram.